Okay, now we're recording. So I'm Laura Jane, and I'm here with Chris Reavis. Am I saying that right?
Everyone says that. It's actually Revis. It's
Right.
Scottish.
Yes.
Yeah.
I find like I start so many of these conversations with asking my friends how they actually say their last name. Isn't that funny how nowadays you often don't know? So Revis,
Yes, ma'am. That's it. Yep.
Revis, yes. And I love that we know each other through your being married to one of my favorite friends from my college years and beyond. Um, but thanks for being here. And really, part of why I knew I wanted to talk to you at this time where I'm just feeling inspired to have conversations with people who I'm inspired by, which I already knew I like to do, but especially at this time where we're in this stay home pandemic, dealing with the coronavirus time, and just how different people are responding and thinking about it and feeling about it. And one thing I know about you, because I've got to be involved with, you somehow already within the weeks of all of us being in quarantine ish, have been inspired to create a course for people, maybe a little bit of a slant towards parents, but really it's something that works for any person, right?
Right.
But yeah, just a free course that you decided to make involving some of the people around you that you know you could look to for resources. And so, yeah, I just know I wanted to talk to you. So thank you for being
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And yeah, and then I know that, and I want to get to talking more about the course and how you kind of dreamed that up and why you put in it what you did. But, and yeah, what's the official name of the course again? Will you say it?
So it's called 2020, and really the thought is how to get your vibrance back in spite of all the things that are going on right now. How do we become vibrant and who we are and how we're reacting to this?
Wow. Wow. And I love that. Such a great word to choose instead of not even just like, how do we stay calm or okay, but even vibrant is such
Right.
a like a
Well, it is
great
springtime, right? The tulips are blooming and all that. So it's vibrant
so
time.
that kind of went into that thinking with your choice of the title and in a sense that it's springtime and yeah, or it's somehow it is.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And right around, I live in Oregon. Right around us, it's an epic change of seasons because we've gone through the rain and the gray, and now everything's blooming and happy. So
Ooh, yes. So you also get a lot of like floral life and such. I always think of Oregon being like a lot of green, but there's also a lot of flowers happening right now.
there are, yeah, it likes the mist all year round. So tulips
Yeah.
are big here, all kinds of blooms. But yeah, we have plenty of big green trees too.
Well, and that's what I love you bring that concept up because I feel like just having been a part of this with you, and I mean, I really have just been getting to know you a little bit and work with you, but it seems like you like let this project just like bloom. It didn't feel like you were like forcing or pushing or struggling like a lot of us might when we have like a creative concept come through. And it seemed like you were just like, all right, I don't know. It felt like that, but
I'm glad it felt like that in that sense. I think I was maybe like a duck and paddling like mad underneath to
mm,
get it done.
ah,
But I was also blessed too. I think sometimes this doesn't always happen in my life, but sometimes when you do something really positive, or when I do something really positive and good, other people show up, right? It's like that first follower concept that other people join in and start helping out. And so you joined in, I would just thank you. And even someone from India joined in, which I didn't know her at all before, and she did a wonderful job. And so it was really a neat thing that we all came together to do this. And if we
ah.
can help one person, we've done something great, right?
Wow. And that really might be encouraging for people. And I feel that right now with my projects too, that it seems more than ever about like collaboration and cooperation. And maybe that's part of how you allowed this so and seemingly easily, even though for you it did feel like discipline and work to actually get it done, you know, as it seems like with any project.
Sure.
Um, but because you allowed the teamwork aspect, or right, and maybe that's just good for a lot of us to embrace right now, to just try to do less
Yeah.
alone, right?
Yeah,
Whatever it is.
it's a really good point, Laura Jane, too. I think the other is when something's so big that we're just faced with, we can't do it all ourselves, even as
Yeah.
doers. We've got to have help for it to happen, right? So it sometimes forces being receptive of help and realizing we need a
Wow.
connection with someone else to get it done, right?
Wow. Which is such a lesson for, and I'm still learning that one. Uh, yeah. And I feel like I mentioned before we got on camera, part of what I want to do is because I know you had already created some courses and done some things in addition to like your busy work life and being a dad, right? And so I'm just kind of curious about what kind of drives that kind of resolve and response. And even that you had mentioned, I know that you do a lot, seem to create with some of this work anyways, a little bit towards parents. And
Yep.
your website is called Rad Dad Rules, right?
Right, right.
For this kind of work. Um, and that you even mentioned, I know you have maybe maybe a young adult daughter, and then you have a younger son too, right? And that you had
Right. My
mentioned that
daughter's 18. My son Cooper is 10, almost 11, and he's on the spectrum too. So that brings out a whole other way of parenting, that we're not naturally set up to understand, right? And so it's been amazing. It's been frustrating. It's been hard, right? That whole journey. But the connections I've developed both with him and with myself because of that, I would never happen otherwise.
I love the way you say that. And that's what I get a sense is that something about probably lots of your experiences in your life. And then I know you even mentioned like your mom has been such an influence. But that, yeah, that's been part of getting you to respond or that you've responded to some of the challenges in life like you have. And then even now becoming someone who's like wanting to inspire parents as having had your own parental challenge, right? Which we all have parental challenges, but that's one that we all, have heard about that, some people deal with. It just has its own challenge, right?
Yeah. I was also incredibly fortunate in going through all this to get exposed to some stuff I wasn't before.
Right.
Specifically, I worked with a group at Harvard that has a lot of left brain stuff. Nothing against the right brain and creative and Eastern, but the Western's got its place too. And it's nice when they join together, which they did in this. So there's 50 years of brain science at Harvard that talks about empathy and how that is an incredibly powerful tool. And the way it works is it sounds simple, and it really is. And when we go to fight or flight, when we're upset or sad or those really intense emotions, we go to our primitive brain, our amygdala in the base of our brain. And it's doing its job, right? It's fight, flight, or freeze. There's a bear in the room, and it's going to make sure it gets us out of the room or we fight the bear. The gotchas for kids on the spectrum and for a lot of people who struggle, that stays with you. So the bear is always with you. The cortisol is always flushing. And electrically, what happens, your brain's a big electrical grid, right? Electrically, what happens is when this is on, it's like a light switch. Your creative problem solving, your brainstorming, all of that's off. And it's not accessible at all. Like when you do the PET scans and the CT scans, it's dark up here. What's amazing is empathy. So really hearing the other person, acknowledging them, validating them, not sympathy, but just that empathy. This is based on 50 years of brain science, gets that person out of that fight or flight state and back into a place where they can problem solve and think things through, right? And use their higher self, if you will. And what's even more beautiful about it is for the parent in my case, or whoever's being the empath, their heart rate slows and they have more brain activity here. So it's this really interesting pacing. And I'm very blessed to be exposed to it. I never would have before. I care about my kids. I'm very dedicated to being a good parent. I think that's important, but I would have never thought of empathy as, really listening to your, hearing them out is going to get them out of those upsetting things. And one more thing, sorry, I'm excited about it.
Please, I'm so fascinated. I want to ask more. Go ahead.
Yeah. The other part that's really cool to me is the neural pathways that these kiddos, in this case of autism, but anyone who struggles, PTSD, depression, any of those things, we all have some of. As they do this pattern, they will build new brain, different neural pathways will light up. So there's not new ones, but there's new neurotransmissions that occur. So the next time you have that stressor, you have a path you didn't have before to get out. And I've seen it with my own son, and it's hard not to get teary-eyed about it because you'll see him, my son, do that, and I notice it too. I'm like, oh, I've got another path here other than being angry, upset, running, being scared to handle the situation. So that's what got me so into Think Kids is the name of the organization.
Yeah.
Ross Green, Bruce Perry, Dr. Avalon have put it together. It's been around for about 30 years, and it's phenomenal.
And part of like understanding and working with your son, would you say is part of what got you researching that? And
Absolutely.
then lighting up. But will you explain more, like what would be an example then of like helping to trigger that empathy response, right? And it sounds like it's something that can work for any person at any stage, right? That it's going to do that for us. But
it
yeah,
can.
like, what's the way that we could purposely like, and is that part of the stuff that's in like even the program, is things that going to kind of light that up in us?
There's a little bit, we touched on it lightly, and it's the thing to get really curious about is not the behavior, so the explosion or all that, but get curious about what might be causing that, what's behind it. For a kiddo, did they walk by a store and something, got them excited or upset, or, the who, what, when, where, why, how, to get really curious, like an investigator, to think about what's behind it. And then when the event isn't so hot, so not right there in the moment, because they're in fight or flight, so they can't reason yet, right? A little bit later, let the kiddo or whoever you're working with, hey, you're not in trouble. Hey, I'm not upset. I'm just curious. That seemed hard. Tell me more about it. And just let them, they just get to talk. The other part of it is, as an empath, it's not, I have a list of things I'm going to respond with, right? I'm just there to be there with the person, right?
Wow. So, because it sounds like you're using the empathy for the person who's doing what you're saying, like as the parent, is they're engaging their empathy by responding with empathy, but then they're also maybe teaching empathy to the kid through that, or helping them get in that place. Wow, that's so awesome. And it sounds so leading edge, even though I'm sure it's something that's been in a lot of religions and traditions over the years, right?
Sure.
So, wow. Oh, and to hear that like people like Harvard scientists are aware of this. And you had some people from that organization involved with the course, correct?
Yeah. So we have an interview in the course with Dr. Avalon, who is, I think he's like the number 5 or 6 TED Talk speaker. So I was really honored that he was there. He cares very deeply. He has kiddos that struggle too. He's first and foremost a parent, and then happens to be the chair of child psychiatry at Harvard Med, and director of Think Kids at Mass General Hospital, which are big accolades, but he's very humble, he's very reachable, and it's on the class, which is free, and it's really fun to watch.
Wow, and that's so moving to really consider how we're learning more even about ourselves through this kind of generation of kids and people that we become aware of who are on the spectrum, as we might say, right? That it obviously is related to conditions or experiences that a lot of people of all sorts have, right? Like you were saying, it's because it is about the nervous system and reaction to stress and sensory. I know we've all heard about this sensory input possibility, right, with some expressions of it, but well, it's so beautiful that we could learn more about ourselves through just trying to understand that specific expression, right, with some of the people be kind of more wired like that. So wow. Yeah, so I love that you personally found yourself researching that, and now you're sharing that in courses through being a dad who was trying to understand that. Wow. That's so cool. And I mean, and I know you mentioned, like, because I was asking, like, how have you become this kind of guy who responds with like this creative action in a time that you feel concerned? And you mentioned that your mom, you felt like, was part of why that is.
yeah, there's a lot there. I'm naturally a doer anyway, so I need to be doing something, even if it's small. In the mid 90s, with the AIDS pandemic, got involved with charity work around that, because doctor, not MD, but I had to do something. I couldn't just watch. That's how we were brought up.
That's my mom. Distinction, I think, that people to like do something with that concerned, worried energy, instead of just worry, to like be like, okay, I have to do something, right? It's like a choice. So go on. That's so
right. And if nothing else, right, it occupies the monkey brain, and I can keep moving on. But the midnights was that. But my mom was a big influence. So she at the time most people retire around 65, she decided to go back to school and get her master's. And then she became a hospice chaplain because she wanted to keep serving. And she did that till she was 82 and diagnosed with cancer. And it's just how I was brought up. It's not like a thing or anything. It's just we're doers.
Yeah.
I believe we're here to serve. I forget that a lot of times, but I believe we're all here to serve. That's how we're designed. And it seemed like the right thing to do. And, I had some skills. I was lucky to be connected with some people. We put it out there. We've had some response to it. It's useful, that's great. And if it's not, that's also great. That's okay. But we're excited about the effort. And I think just a good way to respond to, we can't really do a lot of this pandemic. I mean, there's things we can do. We can be safe and stay at home and all that. But you brought up before the fight or flight and the stressors. A lot of us are experiencing that for the first time because we have the stress of a pandemic in our lifetime and not sure how to act. So if there's a way we can get centered or focused or empathetic or hydrate more or move more, it just puts us in a better state. So when things happen, we have the capability to problem solve, right? We can use this awesome tool up here.
Yes. So that we can be ready to serve. I can
Right.
see that kind of goes with your intentions, right? Helping give people tools so that they can be in a place to serve how they want to. So yeah,
Right.
I love that. It's just so neat to hear how people's stories, right, and experience will lead to what they create, right? And then I just feel like this could be helpful for people who feel concerned right now and have this energy and have their own unique experience and message, right? And just to see that it can feel good to do something with that, right? Within your own means and to let it be about allowing in help to do it. So, and with this course then that you just put out, I know there were 20 different days. Is that the way that it's designed? And 20 different kind of topics that go with it?
Right. So we did 20 topics. They're only 20 minutes each. We want to make this really practical. We're all busy and I can come up with excuses all day long, but you tell me 20 minutes, I can find 20 minutes, right? Get off social media for 20 minutes. So they're really practical. There's takeaways from each one. So we do assign a tiny bit of homework, but it's not overwhelming. And we say in the beginning of the course, it's sort of like that buffet line when we're out of social distancing here. You're in that buffet line and you try the mashed potatoes and the green beans and the asparagus, and some of the things you keep in love and some might not make sense and you might not use, and that's okay. So there's meditation, there's some yoga, there's hydration, there's sound healing. We've got some really practical things like financial saving and journaling. It's a nice mix of things, just to help people get centered and energized and find their vibrance and find a way that they can serve.
Yes. Wow. What a specific, great way to help. And I'm honored to have gotten to contribute to it, but so now that you've gotten this out, right. Are you already visioning next things you want to do? Are you feeling like, because I know you have other work that you're always doing, but or are you on kind of like and just excited to get this out there more, or?
Oh, I haven't stopped. So we're doing some promotion stuff with this a little bit.
Yeah.
But a couple of things are pretty cool. Talking to some other folks that specialize in this, and we'll be putting that on YouTube soon. So Dr. Chudler from University of Washington has a really cool neuroscience for kids thing he's put out there, and with kids at home and studying at home, pretty neat. And he's actually taught Buddhist monks Western brain science and neuroscience, and that's part of his thing too. So interviewing him next week. We've got some interviews coming up with teachers and learning specialists so that parents have some ideas, because at least for California, I think Washington, Oregon, and Idaho, and maybe other states, folks are going to be at home through June with their kiddos. Most were probably not trained teachers. So some ideas there. I try to write 2 or 3 times a week and publish on Thrive Global and other stuff.
Okay.
I have a day job, so this is like a side hustle.
I know that's what I was like amazed to like hear too. That's what I'm like, yeah. And then you're also, I get the gist. You're this amazing dad and husband too. So
Some days, I mean, I mess up like everyone else too. And I
yeah.
think it's just, well, I can't remember who taught this to me. I'm mid 30s, but just realizing that we're more limitless than we think we are. I mean, I have to be careful about that because I will overcommit. But at the same time, we have a lot more energy, space, stuff in our being than sometimes we give ourselves credit for.
Uh,
And I think it's just part of that, like that natural expanse. I need to fill it with activity, right? So that's how I'm
um,
wired.
yes. Wow. Well, thank you so much for being such a natural model of that, right? And you're just like so authentically just living it and sharing it. And that's really, I feel like nowadays, the kind of people that people want to hear from that are just so obviously, honestly living it and doing it, right? Not just talking about it. So
Yeah.
you are such an example of that. Um,
Yeah.
so, well, let's see. I guess we could start to call it to a close. I do want to make time for for you to tell people how to find you and the course. But is there anything else you want to say before that, especially about, I don't know, right now and how people could be handling themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just another human. The one thing I think is to be really gentle with ourselves about what we're going through. But I think there's also, at least for me and some of my friends, is don't let that be a trap where we become paralyzed, right? And don't take any action. There's that natural balance. And there's some really creative ways to connect with people right now and to give. And so I encourage people to use their cortex and get creative about how can they reach people maybe they haven't talked to in 30 years. I recently found, I was in a camp program in my teens, which is now 30 plus years ago, and connected with all those folks over Zoom. And it was the best time ever, right? And we wouldn't have done it if it weren't for this.
Yeah.
There's always ways to give. Local businesses that are really struggling, can you buy gift cards? Can you support them? And there might be folks that look like they're okay on Zoom or otherwise, but maybe inside are really hurting. So I encourage folks just to check in. Nothing big, not a big thing, but just, hey, how are you? What's going on? Tell a joke. I think it's important that we all stay connected, even though it's a weird time. That's coaching. But I think we're going to come out of this stronger. I'm an altruist for sure, and there's a lot of hard stuff and a lot of scary things. I don't want to make of the suffering that's going on, but I think there's an opportunity for us to get much stronger as a culture worldwide and as people. So that's my hope.
Oh, that feels so grounded, and I really feel that as you say that. So yeah, and I love that. I feel like the ideas that you just shared, or the encouragement of being more considerate of how people are feeling and reaching out, and some of that happens to engage that empathy response. I'm noticing, right? So it's going to help us feel better too, but it's going to be nice to just help other people, right? So I
Right.
hear that with your understanding of it all. So perfect advice with the research, right? And the heart and the lifestyle. So yeah, and so what is, will you give us the ways that people can find the course and you?
Sure. Yeah. So website is Rad Dad Rules, 3 words. So if you put that in Google, you'll find our website and Instagram and Facebook. Right on the front of that website in the upper right-hand corner, there's the click to get to the free class. We do collect email. You can unsubscribe immediately. We're not going to upsell you. There's no scam or anything like that. We do that so that as you're going through the course, we can track what you've done and not done to make it easier for the person participating. So that's what we do with the email. But it's all there. It's all video, roughly 20 minutes. Some are a little shorter, but 20 minutes or less. And there's a tiny bit of homework. There's some really cool ebooks. Laura Jane, you've got a nice one there. There's one from our contributor from India, did a really nice journaling one. I've got a sleep and understand your dreams ebook. So there's some little bonuses in there as you go through. And the feedback's been really good. We've had everything from 80-year-old to I think one 16-year-old take it so far. And no one said anything other than they've gotten something out of it they didn't expect. So we're
Yeah.
pretty excited.
Wow. And again, that probably just feels good to have made something that's helping people. So yeah,
Right.
thank you for that and for that inspiration.
My pleasure.
uh, well, awesome. Well, thanks so much, Chris. I knew this would be great to talk to you, and I'm thankful for this time. And yeah, I'd love to even maybe get on again and talk more about parenting and such at this time. So
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
we'll have to stay in touch. All
Awesome.
right. All right, Chris. Well, have a great day out there, and thank you all for being with us. And I'll say adios.
Bye.
All right. Bye, Chris. Thanks.
Bye-bye.